Assalamu alaikum students, I hope you all are well, safe and healthy at home. Well, your course instructor Farzana Khan is here with the course overview. Dear students, you have learned a lot of topics related to English language teaching in this course. So in today's class, I'll just tell you that which topics have been covered, and then we will talk about the important concepts of those topics. So this is actually course overview. You are going to get a recap of all the topics which you learned in this class, in this course and semester. Well, pay close attention to the lecture to get the overview of the course. Well, in the first class, you have learned about the ELT, that what is English language teaching, and we have discussed the introduction to English language teaching in the first class. In the first class, first lecture, you will learn about the description of the course. Actually, this course focuses on practical methods of language teaching, specifically the 4 macro skills of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Students, by the end of this course, it was taught to all of you that students will be introduced to techniques for teaching English language, as well as learn how to design effective tasks and practice situations. Students are encouraged to adopt a critical and reflective approach to practice through peer teaching and develop an informed view of teaching and the learners. So in this course, actually you learned that how to be a good English language teacher, what are the responsibilities of English language teacher, and how will you perform those responsibilities. For this purpose, teaching methods have been taught to all of you, lesson planning have been taught to all of you, that how to plan different types of lessons, as English is not specifically a subject, it's a language. So how will you develop different skills of language of your students? This is what have been taught to all of you in this course. First of all, I'll tell you about what is ELT, English language teaching. In the first class, you learned English language teaching is the teaching of English to people whose first language is not English. So ELT is an abbreviation for English language teaching. Not only this, we have discussed the different methods in which we have talked about grammar translation method and direct method. Grammar translation method and direct method, let me tell you about these two methods, and then we will move towards the next methods. Actually, grammar translation method is a method of foreign or second language teaching, which makes use of translation and grammar study as the main teaching and learning activities. The name has been given to it is grammar translation method, which means focus is given on grammar and translation for developing the language skills of the students. So we have discussed this method in which students are taught the grammatical rules and they learn reading through translation. So they learn writing through grammar. So in this method, the major drawback was that speaking and listening skills were totally ignored in this method and focus is given on reading and writing. So we cannot say this is the perfect method for developing communication and language skills of English. So in response to grammar translation method, there came another method which is called the direct method of teaching. Well, the second method which came in response to grammar translation method is the direct method of language teaching. Teach the language, not about the language. No translation. This is direct against the grammar translation method. So its focus is that teach the language, not about the language, because grammar translation method focused on teaching about the language, focused more on grammatical rules and translation. So its slogan was no translation, no use of native language. They focused to teach directly in the target language, which is actually English language. This direct method is also known as natural method, phonetical method, reform method, and anti-grammatical method. Well, After direct method, there came another method which is audio-lingual method. It was the method which came in response to the failure of grammar translation method and then the direct method, because both the methods were focusing on the opposition, means grammar translation method was focusing on developing the reading and writing skill, and direct method focused more on developing the speaking and listening and ignoring the reading and writing. So there came an audio-lingual method. It is similar to the direct method. Oral-based approaches, pronunciation, and ability of speaking in the target language is superior to other skills. It was the major point of this method. Grammar is learned inductively and different from the direct method. It is different from the direct method because not only vocabulary but also grammatical sentences, sentence patterns are also taught here. Stronger theoretical base in linguistics. Its base is structural linguistics and psychology, which is related to the behavioral psychology. And the objectives of audiolingual method was to speak and write in the target language, to use target language automatically without stopping to think, to form new habits in the target language. While after audiolingual method, you were taught about the silent way. This is the method of language learning. Well, basic principles of these methods are: teaching should be subordinated to learning, emphasizes the autonomy of the learners. Students are encouraged to have an active role in the learning language. Pronunciation is seen as fundamental, uses a structural syllabus but implicitly. The translation and rote repetition are avoided. Well, dear students, after learning about the methods of teaching, you learned about the teaching, reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills. Well, dear students, after the methods, we have discussed about the 4 skills of language. Starting from the listening skills, we discussed that how to teach listening skill to the students, because definitely being the student of English language teaching, it's very important for you to understand that how to teach English language to the students. For this purpose, as there are 4 basic skills for the language, English language: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So being a teacher, you will teach 4 these skills. So in every class, one by one, we have discussed how to teach listening skill, how to teach speaking skill, how to teach reading skill, and how to teach writing skills to the student. So we have discussed about the listening skills. So listening is an active and interactional process in which a listener receives speech sounds and tries to attach meaning to the spoken words. The listener attempts to understand the intended message of the oral text so that she can respond effectively to the oral communication. Well, what is listening and what's the difference between listening and hearing? We have discussed about the background and knowledge which is required for listening process. And not only this, we have discussed that which type of strategies you can employ for teaching listening skill to your students. So different strategies and activities have been discussed which you learned. Well, you were also taught that how to teach writing skill to the students. For this purpose, in this lecture, we have discussed all the points, different types of writing, what is the mechanics of writing, writing as a process, writing as a product, writing skills, quick writing, planning to teach writing. This is the most important point which have been discussed and you learned about it, and how to assess the writing. So writing is the creation of written discourse, putting sentences together to form a text. It is a practical means for fixing or consolidating various language components like vocabulary, syntax, and functions, like following the proper rules. It is a means of reinforcing other skills. Before and while writing, writers gathered data our information by observing, by reading, listening, and talking to others. This is actually called writing. So why writing is important for students? Definitely it's very important for students because they are evaluated on the basis of their writing skills. They need to write assignments, quizzes, midterm paper, final exam papers. Similarly, when they are in the school level, they also appear in the exams, different tests. So writing is very important for students because it's a way of communication. So in this lecture, we have discussed about different types of writing and how to improve these types of writing of the students. What's the process? Which activities and strategies can be employed by the students? Not only this, we have discussed about the speaking skills, that what is speaking skill and how can you develop and improve the speaking skills of your students, in which we have discussed different strategies which you can employ for developing speaking skills of your students. Along with this, we have discussed about the fourth communication skill of English language, which is reading. Why do we teach reading? In which we have discussed the importance of reading, what is reading, what are the different types of reading. And then finally, we have discussed the activities, the strategies and plannings which can be employed by an English teacher for improving and developing the reading skills of the students. So after discussing the methods, we have discussed the skills, how 4 skills, reading, writing, speaking and listening, can be taught to the students. This is what we have discussed in this course. Well, after telling you about the activities, strategies which you can employ for teaching reading, writing, speaking and listening to your students, we move towards the other point, which is lesson planning, in which we have discussed the components of lesson planning, why lesson planning is important and how to plan the lesson. Not only this, we have discussed one by one that how to plan lesson for reading skill, how to plan lesson for speaking skill, how to plan lesson for writing skill and how to plan lesson for listening skills. For this purpose, you were given different assignments for improving your skill, for further practice. And after lesson planning, you were taught about how to teach language through literature, means teaching English language through literature, in which you were taught about the definition of literature, what is literature and how different methods can be employed for teaching English language skills to the students while choosing literature. So literature is very important for English language classes because it provides them an exposure, new vocabulary, new style of writing. So you can employ literature for developing writing skills of the students, reading skills of the student, and speaking and listening skills of the students. So not only this, you were also taught about the genres of literature, that how can you use different genres of literature for developing writing, reading, speaking and listening skills of the student. Well, we have already discussed that how to teach English language through drama. So different points have been explained to all of you that using drama to teach English language results in real communication because it provides them proper vocabulary, proper style, cultural aspects and cultural style of the language. So there are a lot of benefits of using drama in the English language classroom, and drama can be used for developing reading, writing, speaking and listening skills. While not only this, you can use poetry in the English language classroom for developing speaking, reading, writing and listening skills of the students, because poetry is the pure essence of any language that reflects the strength and beauty of that language. So you can employ poetry for developing vocabulary of the students, style of the writing, along with this speaking skills of the students. Not only this, prose can be employed for developing the writing, specifically writing skills, but grammar, sentence structure, vocabulary and all other aspects of language can be employed. Similarly, novel can be employed for teaching English language to the students. So this is what you have learned in this course, one by one, starting from the methods, then how to teach different skills of the language, and then what is the lesson planning and how to plan lesson for reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and then how to use literature for teaching English language and how to use different genres of literature for developing speaking skill, writing skill, reading and listening skills of the students. This is what you have learned in this course. I hope you learned a lot, and now you can teach to your students of English and for developing their reading, writing, speaking and listening skill very well. Here I wind up the session. Take care. Allah Hafiz.